All right, today we're talking about data fields within an audience. So before we talked about what an audience is just a way to store all of your contacts that you're going to be doing marketing to. So now within an audience, you have data fields. Data fields are the individual fields that you're going to track information about your contacts. So it's pretty straightforward, but we'll get into it and hopefully answer some questions that you may have, or just shed some light on some different tidbits of information here. So right now I'm in the customer audience. So I went in audiences, select customer, and now we're in an audience. So I'm going to go into a contact first just so you can kind of see what a contact looks like. So a contact just has the email address, their first name, last name, send format if you want to define that, so you only send HTML or text or both just in case. The time zone that they're in, which is if you have the time zone in there, our system will try to detect that for you. Otherwise, you can always import that into the system. Time zone is just great for what we call time jumper. You could send an email at 8 a.m., but you can send it at 8 a.m. in their time zone. So it might be 8 a.m. your time, but it might be 10 a.m. their time. So you don't want to send it then. You want to send it at 8 a.m. in their time zone. So anyway, so we have standard data fields, and then we have the additional data. That additional data are the data fields that you set up. So we'll go back in here. We'll go to data fields. Hopefully that's fairly intuitive on how to get to that. And then you'll see your list of data fields. I'm going to change this to 25 so we can see all the data fields are in here. So for this one, we've got the additional fields. We put the additional fields on top just because those are the ones that you can control more of, where the standard fields are just there. So they're there for you to use. You can use them or not use them. It's really up to you. Now, the one key thing here, and I guess I use the word, but key. So this little key icon indicates that the email address is the contact identifier, or the unique key if you're a database person. It's just the identifier that uniquely identifies a contact. Now, if you decided to use a custom identifier, then that key may be on one or more fields that make up that unique key for that contact, or for your contacts in general. The default is the email address. So you'll see that that email address has the key on it. You also see that the primary, or the, sorry, I'm using database terms here. I was going to say the primary key, but that contact identifier is also going to be required. So if it's the email address, you have to put in an email address to store a contact in our system. So that will be flagged as required. Otherwise, you've got all of your standard field or your additional fields here. And as I mentioned in previous videos, and at the beginning of this one, I just want to repeat myself several times just to make sure it sinks in. These additional fields are just your proprietary data about each of your contacts. You may pull this from your CRM solution, from a sales solution, any other different system that you are tracking information in. You may pull all that data together and put it into our system. So if I click on contact ID, or I'm sorry, customer ID. So we can see customer ID is the name. Well, we have a description about what that customer ID is. We have the merge field, or the merge tag. This merge tag is what you will end up seeing in the syntax or the text that you would type in to do merge fields within an email, personalization, to say like, Dear John. So that John would be first name, and that first name would be the merge tag. Now you don't have to type that in. We'll go into other videos, or in other videos, we'll go into how to do personalization. We have a great wizard that helps you with that. So you've got the merge tag, you have the data type. Once you create the data field, you cannot change the data type. We'll go over those data types when you create a data field. And then you have the default value. Now the default value is not actually stored with the profile. So if you want to change that default value at any time, then anytime you use that customer ID with whatever default value you decide to use, it will use the most recent version that you have. So it doesn't have to sync with everybody's profile. It'll just be there in be able to be used within a campaign. Then you have required. Required just indicates that this field is required for you to be able to send an email to this contact. Now, we don't suggest using the required majority of the time. Every once in a while, there is a requirement, maybe for we have some customers that will send email for travel itineraries. So there are FAA requirements on fields that need to be put into an email. So you may need to have that information, and so that's where you can check that box to make sure that that information is available. Otherwise, you can use personalization logic or the default value to put in a value if there's one missing. So that's kind of how you add, how you edit. You can always delete the data fields, and then I can go in and add a data field. Adding a data field, the only thing you really need to do is put in the field name. That's it. Now, you can go in and specify the data type as well. We have a lot of different data types, and where this comes into play is for validation. So if you specify this as a number field, and then you try to import data for this contact, import data for the contact, then if the value is not a number, it's not going to accept that value. So this is how you can make sure that your data is nice and clean, or as clean as possible for use in your segmentation and personalization, dynamic content, and various other areas of the system. Now, by being clean, that doesn't mean that it needs to be in the proper format, meaning, some systems you're going to import from them, you'll export from them and then put it into our system, and it may be all uppercase or all lowercase. Well, we have functions to format that data for you, so you don't have to worry about that when you're putting stuff in. Otherwise, you add a data field, and one of the super handy features that we've got is you can check this box. Most of the time when you're adding data fields, you're not going to just add one, you're going to add multiple. So instead of having to, if we didn't have this checkbox, you would put in your data, click add, it would refresh this page, or refresh the list, and then you could click the plus again. It's a little bit of extra steps. Otherwise, you just check this box. When you click add, the form refreshes, or the form clears and lets you add another one in. So that way you can kind of rapidly add all of your data fields as needed. So that is how you add data fields. You see how you can view and edit data fields and how you can delete data fields. The only other thing with data fields, and I'm going to actually go back to a contact and I'll show you in here. So with this, we have additional data, and then you have all of your data fields under that additional data. Now for you, you may want to change that. So if you want to change that, so instead of having additional data, you want to have some other information, maybe like member information. So I can go into my settings area and I can have data field categories. So we're going to have member information, which right now member information doesn't have anything in it. But I can go down here and I can say, okay, I want customer ID to be in my member information. And let's say I just want to have this last purchase category and last purchase date. So I want to have that in my member category, or my member information data field category. So I'm going to go ahead and hit save. Now I've got that in here. So now when I go back to my contacts and I click add, now you'll see that there's a new group. So this allows you to group all of your data fields into a logical grouping that makes sense to you. That way you can edit, you can make this form as useful as possible, especially if you have multiple people adding data into here. It just makes it really, really easy for them to associate data logically and be able to find that information. So you can change this whenever you need to. You can add, as I did, you can add a new category, which is just putting in a category name. And then once you have that category name, you assign those fields to it. And that is how you control the data field layout for a contact. Other than that, that's pretty much it for data fields. If you have any questions about data fields, about audiences, or any random thing under the sun, give us a call, shoot us an email, chat with us on our website, or reply or put a comment on this video, and we'll be sure to get back to you and answer any questions that you may have. Have a great day.